Welcome to another episode of last week's Comics Today. Before I get into this stack from last week, I want to mention something quickly about next week. So, there's currently nothing on my pull list that's coming out next week. Or, there's nothing coming out next week that's on my pull list. I'm not... At present, there's nothing I'm planning to buy from the comic shop next week, and I think this has only happened once before in the last 11 years since I started showing up weekly again. So I'd already been planning to do a catch-up video. There are some things that I've bought recently that have not made it into the weekly because they weren't from that week. They were from prior weeks, so I didn't prioritize reading any of that. But perfect timing. Next week should be a catch-up video. So that will be slightly older books, things that I wasn't previously reading. You'll see. You'll see. Let's get into this stack here, and we're going to start with Farmhand. There's something I want to say about this issue, and I'm going to avoid any spoilers, but I want to show off this first thing. So it is currently on hiatus until early next year. So that sucks, but I've already waited out at least a year. The early COVID, he was on hiatus, came back to end the series. There should be one more arc, as it just said. So this is the end of an arc, and much like Saga, there's a huge emotional gut punch at the end of this. It is huge spoiler that I'm not going to talk about. This gave me feelings. I got choked up reading this, which is a surprise for a comic about mutated plant people hybrids. You could see them here, so that's going on. And those two guys there, and everything happening with him. So, this is excellent. Highly, highly recommended. That's all I'm going to say. Similarly, Deadly Class is ending. There is one issue left. This is part 7 of 8. It starts... There is something I want to show off. Well, there's two things. So, one, this, I think, is harder to read than it should be, than it could have been. And I think that's my only real criticism of the issue. This is the only other piece of art that I will show off. I think this is gorgeous, and somebody is going to wind up taking home this original piece of art when it goes up for sale, and my hat's off to them. This should be framed and put on our wall. It is phenomenal. Gorgeous. Last issue, there was some real-world remender slipping into Marcus, and I'm sure it's been happening throughout the entire series. Events from his life leaking into Marcus or other characters. It became far more publicly known, I guess, when he's talking about when Marcus is talking about getting his novel adapted into a show. Here it's mentioned as a movie. I thought it was a show, but anyway. Here he is talking about they are, let's say, by the water, as previously shown. And he is having trouble with the news, with the world in general. And Maria here is trying to set him straight. And it is, all of that is fantastic. It's really well done. And then we switch over to another character, and we see what is happening with them. And it is, it's hard to read. I've been living with these characters for a long time, as have many others. I think I've mentioned previously that I feel like I'm going through the stages of grief, and I am not alone, because the first letter mentions that as well. So, one issue to go. Deadly Class is and has been one of my all-time favorite series. If you haven't been reading it, then you should jump on board. Start here, Volume 1. Volume 12 should be out soon. Get it if you aren't reading already. Calculated Man issue 3. So that shit hasn't quite hit the fan yet, but the fan and shit combination are coming soon, I think. So here we have this is the Marshals here. After last issue, they are looking for Jack. Jack is staying away from them while dealing with the crime family that he used to work for. All of that is progressing here, but as I said, shit hasn't yet hit the fan. It is still highly enjoyable. I don't know, I think I want to say this is a 5-issue series, and I wish I knew these things off the top of my head, but there is just too much to keep track of. So, it's good, highly enjoyable. If you're into crime stories, then I do recommend grabbing this. Issue 4 of I Hate This Place or Fuck This Place, and the title has never been more appropriate. There is so much, is really cover to cover insanity. I'm going to show you the first panel. I mean, this alone, right? Already the cover, there's a lot happening there. Right, but the very first panel, we get this. Just welcome to the madness. As I said, cover to cover insanity, and I loved every second of it. The art is phenomenal. The writing is intense. There is a dread. There's an underlying undercurrent of dread this entire issue, especially related to Howitzer. So back to the first page. He's got this growth on his neck, and let me see if I could find... There it is. It looks progressively worse every time you see him, and the whole time I'm just dreading that thing bursting, popping, something coming out of it. Oh, there's so much, and I'm only showing you snippets of the first 3 pages. There's so much happening, and it's so good. The writing, again, the art, all of it, I love it. This is great. Shaolin Cowboy issue 4. Based on the ending of issue 3, I thought this was going to go in a very different direction, and this went the complete opposite. I never expected to see the Shaolin Cowboy get a day job, basically start crashing at an apartment. It's insanity what happens in here, and it's all of the usual level of Shaolin Cowboy insanity. Let me just show this. Right? I mean, that's intense. This, what the hell, right? It's just, oof. But then this, just soak that in. I love it. As always, Shaolin Cowboy is just pure. I think I've already used insanity to talk about Fuck This Place, but there's a special kind of Jeff Darrow level insanity and violence, and not even hidden things in the art because they're pretty blatant. Look at that. Look at this thing. Anyway, it's amazing. I was blown away, but also I loved every second. It is extremely surprising, and I have no idea, once again, as always, where things are going from here. Minor Threats number 1 was the other surprise of the week. This was an employee pick of the week, and I saw it on the rack. I was sort of surprised it was there. I picked it up, thumbed through it. The employee said that yes, he had actually read it. That is not always the case. And he said it was great. And there is something I want to pull off the shelf. I don't know where it is. One second. So what I said after flipping through this was, it reminds me of that Donny Cates book, and that was because I couldn't think of the name of it. And the manager said, yes, it's just like the Paybacks, only with villains. And the Paybacks, this is another video I'd like to get to at some point, is a fantastic read. Highly recommended. If you don't have this, Donny Cates, Dark Horse, before he went over to Marvel, it's phenomenal. So Minor Threats is a bit like that, only, again, villains. and I don't know what else to say. Here is an example of the art. This is actually a flashback, so it's a bit more colorful than the rest of the series. But flash forward to the present, and it's really well written. I didn't know what to expect from Patton Oswalt or Blum, but it's great, and I'll be adding this to my pull list. This, I did note, is a 5-issue series, unless I screwed that up and it's really only 4. Either way, I'm adding it to my pull list. DC has a problem, and that problem is they can't get one artist to draw a 2-issue series. So we get 4 pages drawn by the issue 1 artist, and we get 20 drawn by somebody else who does art that looks like this. It is a more simplistic style. I don't know what their problem is, why they can't get anyone to just stay on a series the entire run, but whatever. Ultimately, this was okay. It's not where I thought this was going to go. If you didn't buy it, then skip it. Possibly this character is going to show up in the main White Knight Beyond, but I don't know that for certain. It's alluded to here in the back to be continued in, and it's okay. That's all I have to say. Lonesome Hunters, issue 3. I've been loving this series. It is I don't really like this title, but it is urban fantasy, I'll say. It is the modern day. However, there are these crow people walking around, or crows that possess people, might be more accurate. And a chunk of this issue is a road trip where the 2 leads are talking about a manga series that doesn't actually exist. But it is so good, it's so well done, and it's just this it's this level of like mundane things happening in a world of craziness that it's just extremely well done. I am a huge fan wherever this series is going, and I hope there will be more. This is supposed to be a miniseries, but I hope there's more, because it's just great. Shut off the art, the writing is phenomenal. Like I said, one of the highlights is this road trip conversation about a series that does not exist, and it's amazing. I meant to look this up before I started recording, but I didn't because I'm bad at my job. But we get to the last page. I'm just going to show this off here. Here, like what? If there is a series that I'm reading regularly that is on my pull list, I tend not to read solicits. So I actually need to go look at the September, October, November solicits to see if Robin is in there or not. There is an upcoming by a different writer Batman vs. Robin series that I think is gonna change everything. But I guess we'll see what happens with that and what happens specifically with Damian afterward, and if there is even a Robin series or if this is the final issue. It has been. If this is the final issue, it's good. It's a good journey that he's been on this entire time. It's a good setup for things, places where he can go. Yeah, it's been a good run, but I expected more for this to continue, and I'm surprised by this possible ending and this kind of cop-out. Well, maybe it's not an ending. I guess we'll see. Or is it? Here we have Tales of the Human Target, and this is a one-shot because the main series has been off for a few months. We have Tom King, who I continue saying is questionable. We have Raphael Albuquerque, who is one of my favorite artists, but he doesn't always, I don't know. He certainly used to be, and modern Albuquerque is maybe not as much of a favorite as he used to be, but we also have Smallwood, and what this actually is, why there are multiple artists. Here we go. So there are basically 3 stories here. We have Green Lantern, Booster Gold, and Fire. 3 that are told intertwiningly. So it will jump from one character to the next with no real explanation as to what is happening or why. But they are all human target related, as you should expect from the title. So the art is, different for each artist. But there's a bit of Smallwood in there as well. And really, it all comes together at the end in a way that is troubling. So the thing that I keep saying about Tom King is you don't know whether or not the series is going to be good until the final issue, because that's when really everything comes together. It either comes together or it doesn't. Batman Catwoman did not, but it kind of fell apart beforehand. Supergirl worked. This, I hope, works. It's a bit more like Omega Men. Not entirely sure. I think you have an idea of who's good and who's bad, but it's not really entirely clear. I guess we will see. But as far as this goes, it is technically skippable. I don't think there's really anything new here, except it's sort of confirmation of a character that I already suspected of doing questionable things. He's further doing questionable things before we knew they were doing questionable things. So, that extremely vague description of this is the best that I can do. It's 3 shorts, drawn by technically 4 artists, and it's good, but it's also skippable. That's really all that I can say, I think, about this. That is actually not everything that I got this week. As I said in the beginning, there are a couple of things that I got this week that I have not yet talked about and should be coming up in next week's video as the catch-up video. However, this also came in the mail, and I can't even fit it all on the screen. As soon as I'm able, I will talk about this. As for this week, what a powerhouse week. Pick of the week goes to... I'm going to give pick of the week to Minor Threats because it's an issue 1 and it deserves some increased attention. Farmhand has been going for a long time. It also deserves, I think, some increased attention. I don't know what sales numbers are, but I don't know anyone else that's reading this. Deadly Class, phenomenal. Everyone, I think, is reading this. So, congrats. Continue. Fuck This Place is fantastic. Shaolin Cowboy. How can you... It's Jeff Darrow. Like, it's so good. It's so, honestly, surprising. It's I wish I could tell you more. But I'm just not going to. And then Lonesome Hunters, also great. So pick of the week, it's just half the stack is phenomenal, and I hope that you are reading any of this. If there is anything that you suggest I read, please leave that comment below as well, so maybe I'll pick up something else at the comic shop next week. Like I said, currently there is nothing on my pull list that's coming out, so I don't think I'm getting anything, but we'll see what happens. Maybe I can find something on the rack, or, as I said, leave a suggestion below. As always, I get my comics from a local comic shop. If you don't know where yours is, you can use this URL to find the one closest to you. Thanks, as always, for watching.